I'm Sophie, infant feeding specialist midwife, coming from my messy office on delivery suite. So apologies for the background. I was hoping for a nice pretty one, but never mind. You've just got me. So we have with this session is on skin to skin and slings and kind of using slings, benefits of slings, and just to really help the conversation along, we've got a couple of mums as well. So I'm going to introduce. So we've got Nicole from Cheltenham and Gloucester Sling Library with us, and two mums, Georgie and Gemma. Ladies, are you happy to introduce yourself? So Nicole, you start.
Yep, sure. So my name's Nicole. I'm a mum of two big girls now, 16 and 11, and I run Cheltenham and Gloucester Sling Library, which pre-lockdown was doing face-to-face library drop-ins. We're at the minute trying to figure out how that gets started again. But basically, it's a chance for people to come along, find out how to use slings safely, ones that they own, or come and try different ones out. So they've got different chances to, before they commit to buying one.
Yeah. And sometimes, have you had sometimes mums bring their sling along? I think I got my sling from you, Nicole, and I was kind of like, how do I do this? And I went along to a group. Ruth, I saw Ruth in one of the Stroud groups.
The Stroud Sling
kind of like, I have a sling and I have a baby. Can you help me? And
that's exactly it. Yes, I've been given this. What the heck do I do?
Yeah, what do I do?
Yeah, no, definitely that. And then also people will say, you know what, we've got the hang of this on the front and baby's bigger, we want to put them on our back, and we can show them that. So, you can come along at different stages with any possible question and we will do our best to help.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nicole. Georgie, over to you. So just a quick introduction, yourself and a bit of your sling experience.
I'm Georgie and I have 4 children. This is my youngest, Raven, and my eldest is nearly 10. And I've been using slings since I had my eldest, Liliana, and have continued to use them throughout, from newborn until they literally wouldn't get in one anymore, which was quite old in my case. And
it helped with hip. I remember you having your son on your hip and the hip carries as well.
Yes,
different types of
the ring sling was really, really great, particularly with Eric, because there's a 2-year age gap and Eric was breastfed, and so the ring sling was really easy for negotiating, doing things with Liliana and feeding him when he wanted feeding.
Brilliant.
And generally allowing me to be hands-free.
Fab. Thank you, Georgie. And Gemma, do you want to introduce yourself and give a little bit about your experience with slings as well?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a mum of a 3- and 5-year-old little girl and boy, and I'm also a midwife, and I run Gentle Start Maternity and Lactation, giving breastfeeding support. And I basically lived in a sling for the first year of my son's life. He did not want to be put down at all, so it was a massive, massive help to have the slings there, just to be able to carry on with normal life, really. So yeah, from right from the little stretchy slings, when he was a little baby, he went home from the hospital in one of those, through to your more structured backpack
carriers.
So unfortunately my second child wasn't so keen on the sling, which is really sad, so I didn't get to use it so much with her, but yeah, they're amazing.
Thank you, Gemma. So you've just mentioned, Gemma, nicely about kind of those early days and kind of they're really close. And Nicole, are you happy to talk about kind of benefits of skin to skin? And we sometimes call it kangaroo care, don't we? Which I know is, this is your kind of thing.
This is a really big part of, I think most actual, sling practitioners and consultants will talk about, skin contact. It's sort of an extension, carrying becomes an extension of it. So
4th trimester, don't we?
Yeah, when our babies are born, they need really close contact with us for as much of the day as possible, and that can be overwhelming when you need to feed yourself and you might need to feed other kids and what have you. So slings are a carrying tool to keep your baby close in an easier way, but essentially any carrying is beneficial. So carrying in arms, carrying in a sling, and if you're doing it in a skin to skin situation, there's added benefit. So babies need to be close to us because it helps them feel safe. They have caveman brains. They don't know they're living in the 21st century. They need signs of safety, and those are the heartbeat and familiar sound of a person's voice that they know, their scent, and the warmth from their body. So putting a baby against your body skin to skin, so mum or dad, or any other sort of close caregiver with no clothing on their top, mum perhaps just a bra if she needs to for leaking and what have you, baby in just a nappy against your chest, that's the skin to skin position, and it's upright, so baby's head is just up here and they're just tucked into you. We've got some images we'll have a look at in a minute, which are the same position. Brilliant. For slings or skin to skin. When you've got your baby against your chest like that, they're getting all of that. They're getting the chance to regulate their own breathing and heart rate by mimicking yours. Their temperature is regulated by the warmth that you give off, and mums' bodies are very clever. They can warm up or cool down to give the baby the temperature regulation they need, whereas dads just tend to run warm. So sometimes when dad is skin to skin, or the non-birth partner, so it might be other mum, whoever else is there, the non-birthing partner will just run warm when they've got a warm little baby against them. So they need to be a little bit more aware of allowing baby's head to not be covered up, to cool off and what have you. But yeah, wearing your baby against you keeps you warm, regulates their temperature, regulates their breathing and their heartbeat. Babies can get stressed out really easily. Premature babies even more so, and when they're in the NICU and there's all the noise and all the interventions and stuff, skin to skin actually reduces their pain sensations. Luckily most babies born well don't have to go through a lot of pain, but they can get distressed just through wind and colic and tiredness and sensory overwhelm. So being held against you kind of helps reduce that as well. Having your baby against your chest, if you are the birth or lactating partner as well, means it produces more of the right hormones for your milk production. So wearing baby skin to skin can really help with breastfeeding. Also means babies on there close to the breast, they're going to nestle down, they're sometimes going to go down and feed themselves, so it's causing more opportunities for the baby to want to initiate breastfeeding. The other massive hormone or hormone neurotransmitter that comes through baby wearing and skin to skin is oxytocin, the bonding hormone. So that close contact with us wires our brains, wires our partner's brains to have really close connection and bonding with the baby, and lets the baby know they are safe and loved, and helps them grow self-esteem and a healthy brain and healthy connections. A few other technical ones, things like it also can help with things like infection control, because babies pick up antibodies from our skin, bacteria. But the key kind of things are that warmth, that security and the bonding.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that both in training, and so the midwives talk to the mums about benefits for baby, stabilising, so you've touched on a lot of them, stabilising the heart rate, stabilising the temperature, it stabilises their blood sugar levels, and like you say, helps with bonding, calming them down. It can calm mum down as well, so if her baby is kind of close to her, close enough to kiss, isn't it? I always remember that one. And like you say, there's lots of research now coming out about gut microbiome and how skin to skin, however you choose to feed your baby, that skin to skin can really help with that kind of initiating and colonizing that baby's gut microbiome with the normal gut normal kind of flora and bugs that naturally live on that mummy and that daddy, or that mummy and the birth partner, like you say, that kind of the two closest people to that baby. Brilliant, thank you, Nicole. So are you happy now to run over kind of different, because I hadn't realized till I had mine, actually there's quite a whole world of slings, isn't there? There's not just,
there are, absolutely, yes, I mean,
there's just a whole range of different types of slings, and I know these two, so Georgie and Gemma, I know you've both used a range of slings. I just had a soft structured carrier, but actually I look back now and I'd have another baby if I could use for using a ring sling. They're really pretty. I'm a sucker, I'm like a magpie, I love pretty things.
Oh, there are. I mean, at its most basic, it's just something that ties a baby securely to you. And we talk about evolution, you go right back to early humans. It was the humans who realized they could tie an animal skin or a vine around them to hold baby in place, could gather more food, were more successful. So it's been around for a very long time, but we are now at the stage where you can have beautifully designed, handmade things. You can have really highly engineered things. Essentially, you just want something that is safe and comfortable and holds baby in an ergonomic position that's comfortable and supportive to them, but also that means the parent isn't feeling uncomfortable, because
true.
There are some not great designs out there, and there are plenty that are just perfectly good, and then there are some are very amazing, expensive, and it's a bit like cloth nappies. You can have the basic kit, and you can have as many nice things as you want. It's kind of whatever you need. It's got to solve be the solution to what you need. It's got to be comfortable. It's got to be safe.
Fab, thank you. Are you happy? Do you think now would be a good time for the slides?
Yeah, what we could do is just talk through a little bit about what to look for when you're considering getting a sling. So
Yeah, brilliant.
there's a huge amount of information online. If we can have the first slide. This is something that you can just Google, so you can't see the writing there. It's just to give you all an idea of what the visual looks like. It's the TICS rules for safe baby wearing. So for some time now, it's been very important within the baby wearing industry, so the manufacturers, the sling consultants, to ensure really good safety, because a sling, like any other baby product, used unsafely is dangerous. The same as using, a cot or a sleep aid or a car seat incorrectly.
Yeah.
So when you're using a sling, there are some basic safety checks you do that are essentially about maintaining baby's airway and ensuring they're well positioned. And the UK's best known version is TICS, because it's like a little tick list. You're ticking off those checks as you go. Baby needs to be tight, so whatever type of sling you're using. So we've mentioned stretchy wraps. Those are long bits of material that you tie on really nice and snug so that they just slide baby in and the baby doesn't slump. Ring slings, just the sort of one you can see in the little image there, is a piece of material that comes around and goes through rings like a belt almost, and that's tightened off to ensure, again, no slumping. And the soft structured carriers all have different ways of pulling and tightening their straps. And what you're aiming to do is to get baby up nice and high on your chest and tight, so you can take a nice deep breath, you both feel comfortable, but there's no chance of baby being in it too loose and slumping down over time.
Yeah.
In view, if we have the next slide, actually, because I'll refer back to TICS now, I've had a little look at them. In view means that baby's face, which you can just see at the top of the picture there, would be uncovered by the sling. So what baby's clothing is covering up to the back of their knee is what the sling would cover. From the back of the neck, the back of the knee, no fabric covering their face. Sorry?
Nape of the neck.
Yeah, nape of the neck and the sides, away from the face. So we've got a couple of pictures in a minute and you'll see that baby's face is really clearly away from the fabric. So the long wraps and that kind of thing, it's really important that they're tucked away and they're not coming over baby's face. In the same way you wouldn't overcover a car seat, you wouldn't cover over a pram, you wouldn't pull blankets up for the baby's head. Right. Their face should be completely clear so they're in view to you. Close enough to kiss, as you said, is an example of keeping baby up nice and high. So they're high enough up that you can lean down and kiss their head without having to sort of stretch. Baby's worn really down too low here in the soft tissue. It's not as great for their airways. You want them up nice and high. And then the major thing about airways is ensuring that their chin is not pushed down to their chest where they can't then raise it up. Yeah. And again, that's mimicked if we think about how we put a baby into a car seat or anything else. We don't want them slumped with their chin down like this. Their chin should be off their chest. So this lovely picture here, you can see babies resting their head against the parent's chest. Yeah. And although their shoulders up there, you can tell there's not a chin pushed right down where there's no kind of airway there. So it's not like, there's only one position that's right. You've got this whole range here where there's enough airway for baby to breathe nicely, but pushed down really hard like this or hung really far back, not so great for the airways. And their back needs to be supported. So when babies are born, their backs are in one continuous curve. They don't develop the S sort of shape until they're about 2 years old. So over a few months, the top of their neck begins that upper curve, and then the lower back later on as they start to crawl around. So when they're born, they have this lovely sort of curved shape there, which we're calling the J shape. And we want to mimic that in the sling. So this picture's been taken. You can see the sling round mum's waist. She's had the sling on, and they've peeled it away. And I do this all the time in sling fittings. We peel it away and I say, take a look, take a photo. That position is what you're wanting to achieve in your sling. And it's basically mimicking what you do in arms. If you scoop baby up for a lovely cuddle in arms, that's what you'd be
right
achieving.
There, aren't they?
Yeah. And that last little note at the bottom, the pelvic tuck, this is the trick to getting slings comfy. So once baby's up on your chest and all snuggled in, their face is clear, their chin's off their chest, check that their knees are hugged up into you and their pelvis has tucked down, because that brings their weight down really nice and central. They feel nice and secure. They're less likely to wobble, and you're going to find it more comfortable to carry their weight. So some of the sort of slings that you buy off the high street that have very narrow bases, you can't achieve a pelvic tuck in them, so they're not as comfortable. You want one that comes right over the back of each knee to give baby that really nice deep-seated support.
Their legs often go a bit like frog's legs, don't they, Nicole?
They do. I mean, this baby's a good 3 months old, a tiny little newborn, their feet are going to be all tucked in, and you're bringing the sling up just up underneath the back of their knees, up their thighs. You're not involving the lower legs. They're tucked against the body. They might be covered up by the fabric, but they're not being supported by it. If we could have the next slide, you can see quite a small baby in a stretchy wrap. There we go. So we can't see the baby's bottom, but it's just to show that nice clear nose and mouth are uncovered. Now, that's from dad's perspective, baby's nose and mouth are uncovered. To us, it looks like the mouth's covered up. If he's looking down, he can see nose and mouth are not covered by the sling, and that's what you're looking for. So the safety check is how it looks to you looking down.
Yeah, right.
What we wouldn't want to see is any of that fabric coming up over baby's head or covering up their face. And just the last slide, thank you. So this is a slightly older baby, not much though, still a few weeks old, in a soft structured carrier. But what you can see is the carrier is just going from the back of the neck to the back of the knees. So the lower leg is loose, can move around for good circulation, and their face and head are not covered by the sling. But the baby's in exactly the same J position that they were if they were in the stretchy wrap or in that first photograph. And you can just see on dad there as well, and it was the same in the stretchy wrap, the material spread out nice and wide across shoulders, down around the waist. Yeah. So you've got nice ergonomic carrying rather than the sort of thinner straps that sort of hang the baby off you from a very small area. That can get uncomfortable.
And that waistband, so I had a carrier like this, Nicole, thanks to you. And because I just didn't get on with some of the soft stretchy. It can be a bit like origami, but the waistband, I remember that waistband that you can see around his waist. I remember that felt like it felt really supportive, and actually took some of the baby's weight and kind of supporting your back as well.
Exactly that. And what it's doing is keeping baby's center of gravity really close to you. Yeah. If you're wearing one that just sort of hangs off, it's harder to keep them really close. But when you're wrapping or doing ring slings, you don't always end up with a waistband, but you've still got baby tucked in really nice and close to you. So they're not being able to lean far away, which seems to add to their weight, which is a bit more physics than I can explain. But close up, tight to your center of gravity, they're going to feel more secure, more supported. And because they feel secure, they relax, and then they can balance and support their own weight. If they feel like they're hanging away, they tense up and it's harder. So the more secure and comfortable you can get them, the more comfortable the experience is going to be for everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nicole. That's really helpful. Really learned loads there. That's really helpful. So hopefully there's lots out there find that helpful. So can I go on to questions now? Gemma, I'm aware time-wise it's past, you need to leave, isn't it? So I thought I might go to you, Gemma. Particularly having seen some of those pictures, did you find you were able to breastfeed in using your slings or carriers that you had?
Yes, with a little bit of practice, of course. The one thing about, when you're trying to get out of the house and you've got a small baby, is there's a lot of things to coordinate. So you're thinking about the naps, the feeds, carrying things, getting on public transport maybe, and having a sling just makes all of that so much simpler, because you can they can nap within the sling, and they're more likely to nap because they're nice and warm and cozy, and they've got that movement from you walking about. And again, if they wake for a feed, you're not thinking, I've got to go sit somewhere, am I going to find a coffee shop or somewhere that I can be comfortable to feed? You can literally just loosen the sling.
Sometimes it's a case of loosening it, isn't it?
And then move baby over a little bit, and it's a bit of a knack, but practicing in your practicing in your home environment where you feel safest. I know when I first started using one, I think it was Ruth and Nicole said to me about kind of practicing over a bed. I first of all practiced, I think, with a teddy I had to get used to that, and then when I did the first few times I put my daughter in, I kind of did it over my bed, kind of practicing like that. And I guess similarly with feeding, if you kind of want to try, you could try in your home environment where kind of you've got support of a sofa or a bed to help you with that before you kind of try it out and about and doing it. But loosening it off a little bit, I suppose. I've seen that done with mums, loosening it off, they position them and then they tighten it up again. That's it.
What I've seen.
And you can walk around. I've been breastfeeding in a supermarket with baby feeding in the sling in a queue, and people have no idea.
No, they don't, do they? Because again, the fabric, they can't see. They just see you've got the baby in the sling with the fabric.
So if you are a little bit worried about feeding out and about, you can do it pretty discreetly in a sling. But also, just, that worry if you've got a pram, am I going to get onto the bus? Is there any space? Having a sling made it a lot easier to just go where I wanted to go. You know, you can walk up mountains, you can go on muddy forest trails a lot easier with a sling and a pram. So it is definitely one of those really good tools to have in your kit.
You said earlier as well, often they're more settled for longer, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because they can hear, like Nicole said earlier, they can hear your heartbeat, they're nice and warm. That constant reassurance, so often they settle for longer. And I've supported a lot of mums with feeding in my role, and many mums of reflux babies, slings is their saviour often, for the upright position, and keeping the baby upright and just kind of keeping the baby close as well. So it's definitely
I found that as well, because my eldest, I know a lot more about breastfeeding now, but looking back, I definitely had an oversupply of milk, and because of that, he had reflux. He was really colicky, and so again, having him upright in the sling for long periods of time really helped, and it meant that I could get on with stuff and comfort him and keep him happy at the same time.
Which particularly when you've got toddlers as well. So again, mums with kind of, if they've got reflux babies, then babies with toddlers, you kind of multitask as well, and that hands-free. I remember being able to, I've got photos of kind of doing dinner. So I was chopping up vegetables, making dinner as I had them in a sling, and that was a real you-ha moment of kind of mummy power, kind of, I can do this, I can multitask, it is possible. And it's so empowering as well. And actually encouraging dads to use slings as well. Would Gemma or Georgie, your partner, use the little ones in the slings?
Yeah.
Just as much really. You know, we take turns getting him to nap in the sling, because again, he wasn't the kind of baby you could just lie down and he'd fall asleep. So we'd take turns walking around with him in the sling, you know, at night, getting him back to sleep. So it's very much something that we both used.
Fab.
It's a great suggestion to make, I think, if mum is breastfeeding and dad or the other partner's like, well, what can I do?
Yeah, what can I do? Absolutely.
Take them for a walk, I'll have a shower.
Yeah, exactly. And again, and it takes it back to they're warm and they can hear that dad's heartbeat, and actually that in itself, and actually for a dad that's feeling really a bit at sea and a bit lost as to kind of, I don't know how to support my partner, that can be an amazing thing to do and really help with that bonding, and that baby's brain development and secure attachment. I love reading all about, you know, secure attachment at the moment. And but again, it's coming back to kind of, you know, whoever's feeling more confident with a sling. So if that mum's got the confidence with using it, kind of then supporting your partner with using it. I know one I spoke to a friend, she was like, he likes the plain red one, that's fine, but he won't wear the pretty flowery one. But often I find often mums have got more than one, haven't they? Kind of a wing sling and a carrier or something like that. I
mean, you can have a whole range. Like I say, you can have quite basic plain ones and really pretty ones. And it's worth pointing out as well that along with this range in sort of design stuff is costs as well. You can buy really expensive designer ones, but you don't need to. There are some really great basic slings that will cost you between £50 and £100, and they will last you for 2-3 years, you know, or more than one baby. And then there is always the amazing secondhand market, you know. So people will buy slings, and they generally last pretty well, wear and tear, so you can pass them on even after quite a bit of use. But also people switch and swap around. So there's local and national groups where you can go and buy one quite cheaply. Yeah,
there's secondhand.
There's definitely a barrier, you know.
Yeah, there's definitely secondhand kind of Facebook. I think Georgie and I are in the same one. I'm still in it for some reason, even though I haven't got babies anymore. Kind of secondhand buying them, and
there's a local one as well. You can go in Baby Wearing in Gloucestershire if you want to buy or sell.
Oh, brilliant!
Or just get general advice about it.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say, Nicole. If mums have got just particular questions on guidance on using particular sling, so there's that. Sounds like there's a Facebook Gloucestershire.
Baby Wearing in Gloucestershire is the Facebook group.
Right, okay, cool.
You can chat all things slings, but you can message the Sling Library as well. You can send a photo saying, "Does this look right?" And we can. Is it
tips. To message the Sling Library? Is it the email address?
Email or our Facebook page.
Facebook page as well. Great.
Yeah.
Fab. Thank you for that, Nicole. Georgie, you happy if I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So what particular benefits did you find with using a sling in the early newborn days? So when they're really tiny, although we've covered this a little bit anyway. But yeah, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I used them from really early, from
Yeah.
as soon as, particularly with Raven, from as soon as she was born. I think with my firstborn, using a sling from when she was a newborn really helped me navigate how to live my life in this new way, like, because it can be really overwhelming when you've just had a baby and can feel like you can't get anything done. And it sort of really helped me with that. And then certainly with the others, as more of them came along, it helped in enormous amounts of ways, because it helped with feeding, because it made it much easier for me to feed on demand while looking after the others, which I think helped my breastfeeding journey with them all. But also it helped with the mum guilt of having a newborn and looking after other children, because it enabled me to have the baby on me and the baby comforted and settled while still doing the things that I would normally do with the others, so like bathing them and making them dinner, reading. And I didn't feel like I had to relinquish all that responsibility, or like I had to choose between which one I was going to sort of give that attention to, because the baby was happy and I was still able to do that, so I wasn't missing out. I didn't feel I was missing out on anything, or that the other children were missing out on anything, or that the baby was having to, be, not comforted by me. And that was huge. And I think also, like you said, I used a ring sling a lot in the early days. That was just the one that I found worked for me the best. And for feeding when they were a newborn, and I've had various feeding issues, which meant that I've always had to be, when they're newborn, very mindful of getting them on properly, of getting the latch, on really well. But also I didn't want to restrict how much I was going out. And I found the sling was really great for giving me a bit of privacy, without sort of, I was able to use it for that reason, to sort of so that I could ensure the latch was absolutely right without becoming flustered by feeling the sort of overexposed to the point that I didn't feel comfortable with, really.
Because with the slings, with a lot of them, you can just have it really loose, so handy, like resting on your shoulder, can't you? You kind of get them into latch, and actually it's almost like wearing like a shawl or a scarf or something over your shoulder, so that fabric's coming. Brilliant. Gemma, I'm aware of the time and you need to head off shortly. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of say about slings or skin to skin before you go? I've got a question coming, but I'm going to ask that in a minute.
Okay. Not really. I mean, I just think it was really handy having that option, and it just made life so much easier having the slings. And I just feel it really benefited all of us. It's so lovely to have those extra snuggles all the time, and you can just look down and make eye contact with your baby, whenever you want to, and there's a lot more communication going on, I think, between you and your baby when you're wearing them. And of course, that helps with all that amazing brain development.
Absolutely.
So that's it, really.
Fabulous. Thank you, Gemma, for joining us. Do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Right, I'm going to move on to a question that's come in on the chat. Nicole, I don't know if you can see it. It says, what are the price ranges of slings? Thinking of mums who don't have lots of spare cash. So I know prior to obviously COVID, the Sling Library, people could hire them for low cost, couldn't they?
Yeah, so I mean, you still can. So price range, as I said, you can get a very decent sling for something between £50 and £100, and that still is going to be a lot of money for some people. But if you have in mind the daily use you're going to get from it,
I know people that have bought one instead of a buggy, and they haven't bought a buggy at all.
Yeah, that's one option. Also, lots of people want to buy your baby lovely new clothes, and you might want to say to someone you know well enough, actually, instead of that, would you put a bit of money toward a sling?
Yeah.
And 3 or 4 outfits worth of gifted money to you is going to buy you a decent sling that's going to last you all the way through, or vouchers for somewhere where you can go and get one. So you can buy them online. You know, there's a really great network of independent retailers online. Most of them are sling consultants as well, so they'll help you out if you're struggling with it. But you can also get them in John Lewis and places like that, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, hiring. So the Sling Library, and we've got to figure out a way we're going to do this because of the long-term impact of not being able to
That's what I'm aware of.
basically is that you can come and you can hire a sling. So I've been working with parents who've needed it on an urgent basis recently, perhaps baby's prem, or mum or baby has a disability or a condition, so the sling was essential. But we're trying to open more to more families now, and you can come along and borrow one. We just take a deposit and you get the deposit back when you return the sling, and the higher fees are about £7.50 for 2 weeks. So it just gives you a chance to check it out, but we'll also do long-term hires if someone needs it.
Okay, great.
A bit longer if they need to, you know.
You mentioned disabilities actually, and that does make me think. I know you've had a couple of referrals from me, but I know I've supported mums with disabilities, various different, and actually, kind of supporting them with the feeding, and I'm proper, you know, like light bulb moment of, oh, sling, right, we need to, you know, look into slings, because it can be really beneficial for those mummies if they're unable to be pushing a pushchair, and actually really helps. They kind of reassure that mum she's got her baby close, and managing what's her home situation, her environment, so kind of, and that's where you fabulous sling consultants provide that.
That's it. We can try and come up with solutions. There's also, you know, Facebook, the source of all knowledge. There are some really great Facebook groups for disabled baby wearing mamas, things like that.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, right. Okay.
So that's mums themselves saying, well, I use this chair, or I've got this mobility on my right side and none on my left, or, you know, there's all these different scenarios, and they'll tell you what's worked for them, because slings are great long term often for disabled mums, particularly those who use a chair. Because you can change it from being completely tight and enclosed to just using a ring sling as almost like a bit of a safety belt. So the toddler who wants
when you've got them on your lap,
it can't just be off without you knowing, you know. So there's all kinds of solutions and options, and they are really handy for feeding, for, you know, for bottle or breastfeeding, however you're feeding your baby. If you need a bit more support to manage their weight, then there's usually a sling solution that's going to help make it
absolutely.
Because particularly if you're having one of those feeding marathons and it's just going on and on and on, being able to take some of baby's weight in a sling can be really helpful.
And that's where those kind of utilising the kind of, it sounds like the online groups and the sling consultants are really useful.
Brilliant. And I mean, that's the first thing we'll do if someone gets in touch, is if there's an appropriate group to send them to in addition to us, we will. So Twin Mums, fantastic Facebook group called Twin Sling. They can discuss far more than I'll ever know about how to wear twins. It's brilliant. So we send all our mums there as well.
Fab, thank you, Nicole. Right, I've got another question for you. It's come through on the Q&A. I have recently broken my ankle, and although should be weight bearing by the time baby comes, I am concerned about how steady I will be initially on my feet. Any recommendations for sling to use, especially if needing to use crutches?
Okay, so the thing about all parents wearing a sling is that one of the things that comes into their head is a concern that they might trip over wearing their baby. And you do need to be careful. You have an additional weight on your body in a different place to where it would usually be. And you have a slight barrier to your field of vision by wearing a baby in front of you. But that said, it's generally incredibly safe to wear your baby in a sling because they're tight and secure and you are hands-free.
Yeah. Well, it's very similar to the pregnancy bump, isn't it?
It is, but way higher.
Higher.
So it does, which is more comfortable for our body. But it does mean you have to make sure your floor is clear of
clutter,
possible dangers, which is an important
Lego.
Anyway. The more babies you have, the more important it is to make sure you know where the toddler's toys are before you walk across the room with your arms. But if they're in a sling, your hands are free. So if you were to take this, your hands are available to save yourself. So in terms of a useful sling for someone who's perhaps a bit unsteady and still needs to use a crutch, would definitely be one that enabled them to be fully hands-free. So a Stretchy Wrap can do that for a newborn. And the benefit of those is it looks like a crazy long bit of material, but you tie it the same way every time. And I am not particularly dexterous. I can barely sew a button. I can get them on and I've learned how to do it. And it's now, it's manageable. So have a little practice, get used to it. And then when you've got that Stretchy Wrap on, it can stay on for the day. You can tuck baby in and out. You can adjust it if you need to. but you don't have to keep retying it. So they're pretty handy. Or a type of buckle carrier like the one we saw in the photograph that can be cinched right in to be the right size for baby when they're little, and then it expands out later on. But any carrier that's going to support baby really securely, really centrally, and give you back your hands, or to use the crutch or support that you're using. Another really important thing to bear in mind, though, for all mums who've given birth, is that your body is adjusting to the fact that you've carried a baby for 9 months and then given birth to them, and it's having a huge amount of relaxing hormone.
You're really stretchy, aren't you?
That carries on, those high levels carry on. It makes you much more susceptible to twisting your ankle, pulling you back. So you do need to be really careful how much you're carrying and what you're doing while you carry. So lots of parents say, can I use this sling to walk my dog? Yes, absolutely. But when you bend down to pick up the poop, squat. Good for you anyway, squatting. But you know, squat down to grab that poop. Don't tip yourself right over. When you're transferring baby from the sling into the car seat, you know, hunch down, don't be tipping right over. It's the same for getting...
I remember that. You could tip and twist. And that was my mistake,
you can really do yourself some damage. So whatever you're doing, whether you've got a pre-existing injury or something, you know, you need to recover from after you've had the baby, it's build up how much you're wearing them. So you put the sling on, they'll feel weightless. You do 4 hours cleaning, and then you are going to feel it. So you need to listen to your body and build up how much you're wearing slowly. So this parent who's perhaps going to need to take care as they're walking and stuff, build it up. Be kind to yourself. Build in lots of breaks if you've got to walk a long distance. But the sling should really help, because baby's going to feel much better supported than trying to hold them in your arms and manage mobility aids.
We often say recovering after birth, whatever delivery you're having, kind of listening to your body. Most midwives will say that, listening to your body, kind of your, you know, don't just keep pushing yourself, your pain levels, because it's massive. Your body is going through a massive change, and it's a huge recovery. And particularly after a C-section as well, kind of being mindful of the kind of tummy muscles. So like you say, little short spurts to start with to kind of see how you get on.
I don't know how you found it, Georgie, how early you were able to wear. I know for me, both my babies, actually a few weeks before I was comfortable to wear it for more than half an hour at a time.
I did wear them immediately, but round the house more, and was mindful if we went out for a walk of how far we were going, and whether I had my partner with me, to sort of, I wouldn't have gone out for long spells of time without any additional support, but around the house it was nice to sort of use the sling.
That's it, because you're not in constant motion then, are you? You can stop and pause and take
that's the thing. But I think I applied sort of a bit of the rule with breastfeeding, that, you know, if it's painful, a small adjustment can make a big difference. And I actually found that was very similar with a sling, that you know, sometimes if I felt like it was pulling on my back in a certain way or whatever, a small sort of tightening up the sling a bit, or just changing the positioning a bit, made a really, really big difference. And so generally if it doesn't feel right, it might not be quite right.
That's so important, because people often go, oh yeah, slings are all right, but they hurt after a while. They shouldn't hurt.
No.
It's exactly the same as the breastfeeding or anything else. That's right. If it's uncomfortable, talk to someone, have a look, find out, research, there's information online, make those little adjustments. You're right, we talk about the difference a few inches of tightening can make. So on those buckles and things, if you raise baby right up and take their weight and tighten it off, same with the ring sling, raising them up and tightening it off, it just takes off a tiny little bit more slack, and it makes an incredible amount of difference.
I found also for what I was doing, so like the ring sling for quick ups and downs and the school run and stuff was great, but for longer walks and stuff like that, I found that another carrier was definitely more suitable for that sort of thing. So I mean, I've used three slings, which I've had, from the price point of view, I've had them for 10 years, and they're just,
so that's value for money.
Incredible value for money. I bought all of mine pre-loved, so they were really lovely and soft and squishy when I got them, and overall I think the three cost me less than £300, and they've been, you know, I couldn't buy a pushchair for that really, and they've just been incredible, and so from that point of view they were absolute value for money. And I use a soft structured carrier, one pat, a ring sling, and then a dilly tie, which is a wrap conversion sort of sling. And yeah, those three were the ones that I found through going to Ruth actually at the Stroud Library when back in the early days, and they were the best ones for me. And I think that's the thing, by testing them out and trying them.
That's
yeah,
it.
you're right on the personal, and actually it's a little bit, again, a bit like breastfeeding, on the personal experiences, particularly expressing and all sorts of different things. I liked a soft structured carrier, but couldn't get my head or arms round. I did try. I borrowed off friends. It was one of the soft. It's not a ring sling, but it's a soft carrier.
Close caboo, so it's got
That's
the
the one.
crisscross and the rings.
That one. Yeah. So a good friend of mine, she's used it with both hers and absolutely loved it. I just didn't get on with it at all.
I mean, we're often asked, what's the best sling? There isn't one. It's
Yeah,
like
there is. It's a personal.
What's
it's quite
great for one
personal.
person's not for the other. That, yeah, ask your friends, borrow, try them out. Worst
Yeah.
case scenario, if you buy one second hand, you don't get on with it, or buy one new, you can sell them on. They've got a really good resale.
They have got a really good resale, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah, borrowing one off a friend just for a couple of days, or come into the Sling Library and borrowing one makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
I have to love you and leave you all. It was lovely to meet you.
No, that's fine. We can finish up. Thank you ever so much, Nicole, for joining us. Do appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye. And thank you, Georgie, for joining
No
us as
worries.
well. Your insight's been really useful. For those mums watching, we'll make sure the links are available to the Gloucester Sling Library. And Georgie, thank you again.
No problem. Nice to see you.
Bye.
Bye.